Hello, I would like to tell you something more about my project, which is about Czech Jewish teenagers who survived in Denmark. So all my research started with this photo. It is photo of Jewish girl. Her name was Helena, and she lived in Czechoslovakia until 1942, when she was deported to concentration camp in Poland. I published Helena's story in main Czech newspapers, and I thought there is no more information about her family. But a few days after my article was published, this woman told me Helena was my cousin. So of course I wanted to know much more, and I visited this woman, and she said I could survive because I survived in Denmark. And I said, really? I never heard about this. I have been working as a writer and historian more than 16 years, and my main stories are about Jewish stories before and after the Second World War. And I wanted to ask her how this happened that you survived in Denmark. And she said, I was in the group of Czech Jewish teenagers, and we expected to go in 1939, we expected to go to Palestine, but it was too dangerous, so our leaders from Jewish community in Prague, they decided to find another country, and they found Denmark. They found Women's League for Peace and Freedom. These ladies from Denmark, they found foster families all around Denmark, and they accepted 80 Czech teenagers. Of course, I wanted to know much more details, and I wrote to Danish archives, Swedish archives, of course Czech, Israeli and American archives, and I was just asking very simple question. Have you ever heard about this Czech group? They spent 4 years in Denmark, in countryside. Do you have any kind of information, diploma work, book or whatever? And mostly they said never heard, or just we have few names. So I decided, when Czech media helped me in Czech Republic, so probably Danish media could help me. And I wrote to these newspapers, I wrote them that I have this story, and I am going to go to Denmark, and maybe they can help me with this research, because I was thinking these Czechs, they were staying 4 years in countryside, so someone must remember them, right? And they published this whole story, and there was announcement saying that I am going to go to Næstved during a few days, and if they have something, so just send more information. And suddenly it was like a storm. I got these photos, like photo of Hannah, then this and this, and then letters and more and more and more and something like diaries and letters and much more information. And I was just so happy that I collect so many materials. And from Denmark, of course, I went all around these stories, and then I went to Sweden, then Israel, and then other countries. And after 5 years, I finished my research, and this is the main result. This book, in spite of Friendship in Spite of Hitler, this book was published in Czech publishing house, the second biggest publishing house, and it was awarded by literary prize of a famous Czech writer, Arnošt Lustig. This book is divided into 3 main chapters, and I will show you how is it divided, let's say. So at the beginning, you can see the first chapter. There is description how I found the story and what I found at the beginning, and then we go to every this teenager. I selected 10 of these teenagers, 10 of these survivors. And I am showing their stories with historical photos and also photos of them, how they live nowadays. In every story, I collect historical information and also details from interviews with these people. I have a lot of photos in the book, and it's not just they are there. It is so special because you can see through all these photos how these people, how they lived before the war and during the war, how they lived in Denmark, what they did, and it is important part of the book using so many photos. This is another chapter about Czech girl Hannah. She wrote a diary, and I have to say she was very talented girl. She described her feelings, how is it to be in the foster family, and except this Hannah's diary, I found much more diaries, I think 10 or 11, so I can compare her feelings and her descriptions and much more. So these photos are from her foster family. And then we are going to another story. It's about Jirka. He escaped, as most of them, he escaped in 1943 from Denmark to Sweden. And in Sweden, he found Czech colleagues, and they applied for Czechoslovak army in England. Later, they went to England. As you can see in the book, there are not only photos but also other type of visual materials. This is story of Carolina, describing how was it in the foster family in Denmark and how was it when she returned and found out that no one survived from her family. Actually, most of these teenagers, they have same story. Most of them, they lost all family members in concentration camps, and after the war they found out that there no one there actually in original home in Czechoslovakia. So as I said, all those photos, not only from the time before the war but also after the war. And here's example of the story about Judah. He lived in Israel, and he was one of those who really wanted to go to Palestine because he was dreaming about kibbutz, and this is from his chronicle. And he was very sporty guy, and he really enjoyed being as a farmer in Denmark. And here I go with some others, and now I'm going to show you story of a man. His name is Dov, and he is somehow very, very special because his foster family, he lived nearby Tisted in Jutland, and he called themselves, they were like my second family. He still speaks fluently Danish, in spite of he lives in Israel 60 years or more. And he still has connection with his Danish family, and it's something very, very special. This is second chapter. It is about my, let's say, detective research. I started my research, as I mentioned before, I started this research in Denmark. Concretely, it was in Næstved and later in Tisted, because in this location, most of these children, they were staying during war years. I found these locations from photo. This is something like summer camp where Czech Jewish teenagers spent several days, and I found original location. This is also a historical photo, something like a school, and I found the school, and later on I visited this place with one of those survivors. I was also in Sweden. Then I traveled to, as I said, to Israel, and here's a photo from Nestvet Museum, because I created an exhibition. This exhibition was shown in Odense, Gilleleie, Copenhagen. Now I'm going to, I hope, cooperate with Esbjerg Museum and other institutions all around Denmark. My exhibition is part of its property of Czech Embassy in Copenhagen, and we cooperate very closely. And now I'm showing you a photo of two survivors. She lived in Haifa and he in Jerusalem. They didn't know about each other 70 years. And I reunited them in Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem. And it was just incredible moment. It's just difficult to describe how was it, but very, very emotional. And quickly we are going to the final moment when I reunited people from this group. This is the photo of reunion. As I said, they didn't see each other 70 years. They traveled from all continents for this reunion, and it was just so amazing. I don't know how to describe. And this is photo of second generation. Most of them, they had no idea what happened to their parents, how they survived in Denmark. And through my research and later through my book, they found out much more information. The last chapter, it is about this story, how is it retold in the families. So for example, this is story of Hannah, as I said. It was Czech girl, and here you can see Hannah's foster mother, Jensine, and she wrote me that Hannah was staying at their farm until 1943. And Jensine, she said, I have no idea where Hannah escaped and what happened to her, so I would like to know much more information. I found Hannah and her daughter Janet in America, and Hannah and Janet, they met, and this is photo from this incredible meeting. And here I have photos from Israel, from families, and how they share the story. And this is a family of Dov. As I said, he was very, very happy in the foster family, and he still has connection, but not only him. This is Dov's granddaughter, and this is his granddaughter from Danish foster family. So it was just amazing, right? And this is the final part of my book. Every time when I'm in Denmark, all the people asking just a simple question, when we can read your book in Danish. So I hope one day it will be possible. And thank you very much for your interest. Thank you.